This story is about one of Melbourne's most notorious criminals, a hitman who became infamous during the city's violent gang wars in the late 90s and early 2000s. Known for his ruthless tactics, Benjamin Benji Venan was a major player behind several high-profile killings that shook the Melbourne crime scene to its core. Born on November 16, 1975, Benji grew up in Sunshine, a suburb in western Melbourne. During his childhood and early teens, he was an altar boy at St. Andrew's Greek Orthodox Church in the nearby suburb of Sunshine West. Benji really started to make a name for himself as an amateur boxer, even making it onto the state team. The legendary Olympic boxing coach Bo Garing used to call him a whippersnapper. But it wasn't until the police showed up at the gym that Coach Garing found out about Benji's less savory activities. So, why were the police after Benji? Well, back in 1993, when he was just 17, Benji and a couple of his friends got caught after they pulled off an armed robbery. They had ambushed a cigarette delivery truck in West Sunshine, handcuffed the salesman, covered his eyes with heavy black tape, and threw him into the back of a van. Before they drove off to a more secluded spot, Benji and his friends transferred cigarettes valued at over $28,000 into another vehicle. The salesman they'd kidnapped was lucky to escape. Benji was arrested shortly after the heist. He owned up to his part in the crime, but refused to rat out his accomplices, one of whom was rumored to be his close friend, Dino Debra. Dino, known for his aggressive behavior, was Benji's best mate, and together they had a serious penchant for crime. After Benji's conviction, law enforcement found the stash of stolen cigarettes hidden under his bed, which led to him receiving a 3-year sentence at the Tan Detention Center for young offenders. During a brief period of home leave from detention, Benji and Debra decided it was payback time for the cops. Since Benji was already serving the maximum sentence for a juvenile, he knew that any additional crimes committed during his leave wouldn't extend his jail time. During his time on home leave, Benji and Debra decided to target an off-duty officer by stealing his private vehicle. They drove it out of the city and set it on fire. While rummaging through the glove box, they stumbled upon a diary containing the contact details of the Sunshine Criminal Investigation Branch officers. Seized by a moment of impulsive anger, Benji dialed a number and unleashed a torrent of verbal abuse at the officer who had charged him with the cigarette robbery. However, his plan backfired spectacularly when the officer immediately recognized his voice. This prompted a swift police response to apprehend Benji. 2 years later, at 21, Benji was finally out of detention and quickly fell in with a local gang known as the Sunshine Crew. This gang had a notorious reputation throughout the western suburbs of Melbourne in the 90s. Known for their volatile and ruthless nature, they were always on the lookout for quick money-making schemes. Starting as schoolboy petty thieves, they quickly escalated their operations to drug dealing, shootings, kidnappings, and extortion. Benji started making serious money, engaging in a range of illegal activities including stealing cars and dealing in marijuana, ecstasy, steroids, and speed. Benji was also involved in car rebirthing, a process where stolen cars are given new identities. He learned about this from Dino, and together they had been involved in the scheme since they were 15 years old. They would deliver stolen cars to rebirthing garages, often collaborating with tow truck drivers to facilitate the operation. The local police in Sunshine were well acquainted with Benji, and whenever a car went missing in the area, he was usually one of the first suspects they considered. Benji quickly became a prime suspect whenever a car went missing in the area, putting him constantly on the police radar. Officers frequently visited his parents' home at all hours, but his parents always defended him. They insisted that Benji couldn't possibly be guilty and argued that the police were in the wrong. In 1996, when his boxing career hit a roadblock, Benji turned to kickboxing, a new passion that consumed him. Kickboxing provided the perfect outlet for Benji's pent-up aggression. According to kickboxing commentator Stephen Mill, Benji was known for his fearsome demeanor and readiness to take on anyone, never taking a backward step in the ring. However, in 1997, after losing a fight to Ben Serrano, Benji decided to end his kickboxing career. As the criminal world moved fast, he began to expand his operations beyond Sunshine. making connections with major players in the underworld. Benji got heavily tattooed, choosing designs that were noticeable, recognizable, and intimidating to everyone who saw them. His criminal journey took a significant turn when he formed a close connection with an underworld figure and young drug dealer named K.L. Williams. Benji and Carl developed what seemed like an unbreakable brotherly bond. Benji respected Carl and looked up to him as a mentor in the criminal world, especially as Carl was making millions dealing ecstasy and speed. Their involvement in the drug trade, however, led to escalating tensions and eventually a violent conflict with the Carton crew. Around this time, Benji realized that he needed to expand his criminal repertoire. He decided that his reputation couldn't rest solely on auto thefts and drug deals. Benji decided to move up in the criminal ranks by becoming a hitman. Even his lawyer recalls a chilling conversation where Benji was asked how things were going in his life, to which he responded, "Oh, things are going great. I've got a new job where I wear gloves." In 1999, a tragedy unfolded when 57-year-old greengrocer Joseph Quadara was ambushed and killed in a Turak car park, just as he was about to start his shift at a Safeway supermarket. The police believed that this cold-blooded killing was a horrible case of mistaken identity, stemming from another man with the same name who had underworld connections. It's speculated that Benji was hired to carry out this hit, although he was never officially charged with the crime. 12 months later, in May 2000, Frank Benvenuto was found slumped forward in the driver's seat of his car. Initially, witnesses thought he was just asleep. It was only when someone checked on him that they realized he was lifeless. Frank was a major figure in Melbourne's underworld and the son of Liborio Benvenuto, who was often described in reports as the undisputed godfather of Melbourne. The reasons behind the execution were unclear, but Benji was named as one of the prime suspects in the case. Despite the suspicions, Benji was never charged for Frank Benvenuto's murder. He also found himself under suspicion for the murder of his lifelong best friend, Dino Debra. Debra was executed outside his home on Cranbrook Street in Sunshine West on October 14, 2000. Many believe that personal disputes among the Sunshine Boys over the years led to his execution. The police suspected it was a case of payback, and the Piranha Task Force publicly named Benji and another individual, Paul Kalapis, as prime suspects in the case. However, no charges were ever laid against them. 2 years later, on October 16, 2002, Paul Kalappolius met a similar fate when he was executed in his home in West Sunshine. Police suspected that Benji was responsible, possibly acting on orders from higher up in the criminal hierarchy. This suspicion was fueled by Kalappolius's aggressive debt collection methods. Being a close friend, Benji could have easily gotten close enough to Kalappolius to carry out the deed. Nevertheless, Benji was never charged. At this point, the dynamics within the Sunshine crew began to shift. These lifelong friends who had ventured into the life of crime together were possibly turning against each other. In May 2002, Melbourne's drug trade was engulfed in a violent power struggle between Carl Williams and the Carlton crew. Amid this conflict, another life was tragically lost: Victor Pierce. Pierce was killed in a hail of bullets while sitting in his car near the Coles on Bay Street in Port Melbourne, an area known for its upmarket bars, cafes, and apartments. Years later, during a court proceeding, Benji was named as the shooter. It was alleged that he had to eliminate Pierce because Pierce was reportedly planning to eliminate him. Despite the accusations and his alleged involvement in multiple high-profile crimes, the police didn't have enough evidence to charge Benji at the time. In response, they escalated their efforts by bugging his phone lines and placing him under constant surveillance. A dedicated squad tracked his every move, 24 hours a day. During this time, Melbourne's drug trade was thriving, and in December 2002, Benji decided to completely shift his allegiance to K.L. Williams. He unofficially took on the role of Williams' bodyguard. About a year later, another execution occurred. Nick Radev, nicknamed the Russian, was executed on April 15, 2003. Radev was killed as he stepped out of his black Mercedes-Benz, further intensifying the violent struggles within Melbourne's underworld. Nick Radev, known as the Russian, was reportedly lured to a meeting under the guise of confronting a speed cook. His business dealings with K.L. Williams were profitable, but he had gotten upset over the poor quality of a batch of speed produced by Carl's cook. Some sources even suggest that Radev had a habit of kidnapping cooks to coerce them into working exclusively for him. Tragically, Radev was ambushed and riddled with bullets from 2 different guns. Police believe that K.L. Williams ordered the hit, with Benji and another hitman, known simply as the Runner, allegedly pulling the triggers. However, the case around Nick Radev's murder remains unsolved. Some sources have even speculated that Radev might have been responsible for the murder of Dino Dibra, suggesting that Radev's own execution was an act of payback. Unfortunately, there's no concrete evidence to confirm these theories, and it's likely that the truth will never be fully uncovered. Radev's death was a pivotal moment, acting as the catalyst for the creation of the Piranha Task Force. This special unit had been under consideration due to the rising number of gangland slayings and was officially established just weeks after Radev's murder. During this period of increased animosity, K.L. Williams allegedly planned a $50,000 hit on Mark Mal. Mark Mal was being blamed for Radev's execution, prompting K.L. Williams to arrange a peacemaking meeting with him at Crown Casino. During their conversation, Malia confronted Williams with rumors he'd heard about Williams and Benji being behind the hit on Radev. Williams denied any involvement and offered to help Malia seek revenge against the real perpetrators. However, a witness later revealed that word had spread about Malia planning to arrange a hit on Benji, and possibly Williams too. In response, Williams wanted to make sure he was prepared to act first, should it come to that. At the casino meeting, Benji reportedly accused Malia of hiring 2 men to stake out his house. Later, in a grim turn of events, Malia was lured to a garage in North Melbourne in August 2003, where he was killed. His charred body was eventually discovered in a wheelie bin in Melbourne's west. According to some sources, Benji was one of 7 people involved in this brutal act. Years later, in a significant legal development, Williams pleaded guilty to taking Mark Malia's life, along with the lives of 2 other underworld figures. By the end of 2003, Benji had achieved the notoriety he craved, but also became a figure of concern among underworld figures because of the attention he attracted. There were attempts to negotiate peace between the Carlton crew and Carl Williams, but these efforts ultimately failed, leaving Benji in a precarious position. He was now playing both sides, making it unclear where his loyalties lay. This ambiguity made him a ticking time bomb in the eyes of both his enemies and his associates. Meanwhile, Williams received 3 life sentences with a minimum non-parole period of 35 years, marking a significant moment in the ongoing saga of Melbourne's criminal underworld. On March 23, 2004, Benji went to meet Dominic G at the Lyella restaurant in Carlton. They started their conversation in the main room, but soon moved to a more private area at the back. Things heated up, leading to an argument and a violent struggle, followed by gunshots. Benji was hit. Dominic said that during the confrontation, Benji lost his temper and pulled out a weapon. But during the struggle, Dominic managed to turn the gun on Benji and fired in self-defense. Tragically, Andrew Benjamin, Benji Venan, died at the age of 28. His funeral was held at the Greek Orthodox Church in Sunshine West, the same church where he had served as an altar boy.